Hello and welcome to your Valley News Now update, but we got something a little special here. Duke Schindler with you. We're introducing a new segment here called Sports Overtime, where we just kind of take you through what's going on here in the North Dakota sports world and beyond. So we want to start off with none other than, of course, NDSU football. Another dominating start for these Bison this season, heading to Citadel last week and coming out with an absolutely monster 38-0 shutout. Now, it might have to check the pulse on Citadel after that one, but these Bison have a much more interesting matchup tomorrow versus Tennessee State. We'll bring this up here. So the Tigers, well, they're 1-0 themselves, but a much closer game that they had against North Carolina A&T. That game ended in a 24-21 win for Tennessee State. But even with the Bison shutout win, Coach Polasek, he sees room for improvement on his defense, continuing to push his staff and players to improve absolutely every single day. There's certainly some things that he sees on the defensive side that need some polishing, both for the starters and the depth they're trying to build. Why don't you go ahead and take a listen.
It's unbelievably critical to have depth. You know, and I think Ray James is one of those guys that I'm talking about. Got the ball tackled, really did a nice job, but we're preparing to beat the best. Okay, so if that running back is a little bit better, does he drive his knees through that, kind of diving tackle rather than running through? So Ray James has 4 examples on tape now that we can say, hey man, we might see a better player and we need to be a little bit better, but it's awesome, right? Talon Edey came up and had a huge hit, right? I think Will Stile was really close to blocking a punt. We get the coach off of that. I think Will Stile makes that play next time because he's gone through it now. And so to be able to play in a game where you play that amount of guys, I think 75 guys played.
Excuse me, and just on the offensive side of the ball, Polasek has all eyes on Tennessee State, what those guys can do on defense. And their defensive coordinator, may ring a bell as well. Greg Williams, if that jogs anyone's memory, he was an NFL defensive coordinator for years and also a Super Bowl champion with the Saints. Don't ask me about that Vikings Saints and NFC championship. Williams will be on the opposition calling the defense, and Polasek, well, he knows the physical nature that Greg Williams brings to his defense, and he's got all eyes on what Williams could throw at him during the NDSU game.
I'm just a little bit on edge with having one game of film and then watching some spring, professional league to get ready for this game. And I don't think this D coordinator is just going to let us, just run our best stuff and not have answers for that. I think he's going to make us go to options 2 and 3. And so we got a challenge ahead of ourselves. And the most important thing going into this game and for the next 2 or 3 weeks is improvement. We asked our players along with every coach, what did I do well? What should I have done differently? Okay, and what can I improve on?
Sorry about that, guys. It's Friday here. We'll take a look at some of the high school football matchups we have here around the area and beyond. Starting off in Wahpeton, they're heading to Watford City. Wahpeton's coming off a tough early loss against Jamestown in Week 1. Now they're looking to bounce back as they head to Watford City. Minot North goes to Fargo South, and then Fargo North is heading to Bismarck. And then you see Mayport CG as well as Ellendale Edgeley Clum. Now over to another slate of games here. Turtle Mountain Community at Thompson. And then Kindred at West Fargo Horace. Defending champs in AA West Fargo. Well, they have an interesting matchup tonight, taking on Kindred, who is also the runner-up in Single A. So both coming off near 30-point wins in Week 1. Then Davies at Bismarck Century, coming off a huge win of their own, demolishing Minot. Davies did 42-14. The runner-up from last year's tournament, Davies, well, they're heading to Bismarck Century, who is also the runner-up in the 2022 tournament. And we'll head to our last graphic here before we let you move on here. Grafton, the Spoilers, looking to enjoy their 28-12 win over Mayport CG last week. Now they're facing another fellow 1-1 team in Carrington, who posted a 14-0 shutout at Sargent County last week. Then we have Shanley at Mandan, runner-up in 2023. Shanley had a dogfight last week versus Bismarck Century, just sneaking out a 20-13 win. Now they head to Mandan and a 2-0 start to the season. We'll have coverage of these games tonight on Valley News at 10 p.m. And we want to bring you back here because it's also week 1 of the NFL season. We first got our taste last night, and what a great game that was. Cowboys-Eagles that got super chippy and also went down to the wire. No better way to start a season here. Now we look towards Sunday and Monday. Minnesota Vikings, they're heading into the season with a stout defense, maybe a bit light in the secondary, and then loaded on offense. But of course, there's going to be question marks about the new starting quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, coming off that meniscus tear and how he's going to be performing on Monday night. Hey, it's the big stage. It's in Chicago, right near his hometown, actually. So let's take a look at the Vikes injury report here as we head in and approach week 1 of the season. Obviously, you see star left tackle Christian Darrisaw still working on coming back from that knee injury he suffered last season. Hey, you know McCarthy's going to love to see him back if he can, protecting his blind side. However, Darrisaw did not practice or participate in practice on Thursday, and we really have no indication on if he'll take the field. Another big name, this time on defense, Harrison Schmidt. He's been dealing with this kind of odd illness that's kept him out of practice for quite some time now. Did not practice or participate on Thursday either. And even with that thin secondary, well, they're going to need Smith's leadership to be displayed on Soldier Field. Hopefully he can shake that. Then the fan favorite, Andrew Van Ginkel. He's been kind of on and off injuries during his time in Minnesota. However, there's no doubt when he takes the field, he makes a difference. 11.5 sacks last year for the Purple and Gold. 2 interceptions, and I'm sure if you saw those games, you remember they turned into pick sixes. Gonna need Gink out there to help hold down the fort, especially with this Bears offense that we've heard so much about this offseason, especially with the addition of head coach Ben Johnson. However, Gink did indeed practice on Thursday, and certainly more concerns for Minnesota's former wide receiver 3, I should say at this point. Jalen Naylor, he's dealing with a hand injury he suffered early in camp. Seems to be on the right track to be available Sunday, being a full participant in practice yesterday. But of course, we know it's not just about the Vikings here for NFL fandom in Fargo. There's plenty of Packers fans out there too, and of course they got that shiny new toy in Micah Parsons, but he's actually dealing with a back injury of his own. Limited in practice these last 2 days, but signs are pointing towards Parsons taking the field on Sunday in a big season early matchup against Detroit. Take a look at what we got here. Now you see Parsons there dealing with the back. Right along there is with Jordan Love, who suffered that left thumb injury in the first preseason game. It did require surgery. He should be good to go Sunday, barring any setback. Jaden Reed working on a foot injury that kept him out of practice Wednesday, but moving in the right direction. And Reed was limited in practice on Thursday. Now for this Packers offense to hum, they need to have Jordan Love's back. Elgin Jenkins, you see him on the list there as well. On the line, he's been versatile for years in Green Bay, dealing with a hip injury. Now he's been limited to practice these last 2 days. But Green Bay, hey, they're opening their season Sunday at noon against the Detroit Lions. How about that for a kickoff? Now we have something special coming up for you guys right before we head out here. An interview with UND's head coach, Eric Schmidt, on that big game against Kansas State and what it took to make sure that they stayed in the game and building this program. Take a look. Hello and welcome to your Valley News Now update. Duke Schindler here with you. We got a little bit of a special occasion here. We're looking to open up a new sports overtime segment. And we got a great guest here to kick things off. No other than first-year head coach Eric Schmidt of UND. Obviously, Coach Schmidt, he was a defensive coordinator here at North Dakota for a few years. as well as a linebackers coach, and also won the Division II title in 2001. So, Coach, heck of an intro. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Duke. How are you?
Doing good. I'll never forget when you said you needed more Dukes in football here when we caught you at camp. So, always appreciate that. Thanks for hopping on here. Just starting it off here, Coach, obviously we'll go back to Saturday here. A great game, probably one of the best games on that Saturday slate was you guys versus that ranked Kansas State team. Obviously an unfortunate loss sort of at the buzzer there, but it's been a long way for you to finally get to week one here, Coach. How are we feeling after just taking the field in a big game like Kansas State?
Yeah, great question. I think, you make a good point, especially with the way summer rules are now, there's a long build up to the first game, with the number of practices in fall camp and then what we're able to do in summer too as well. And I thought our guys were ready to go. We did a really good job of handling the trip, the last 24, 36 hours before the game. I thought our guys did a good job, and sometimes that can be a concern, especially, we took 74 guys down to Manhattan, and, over half of those guys were on their first trip, in a North Dakota uniform. They had been in other trips and stuff like that, maybe at other institutions, but I thought our guys did a great job of preparing. We put a lot of emphasis on that. I thought our coaches did a great job of getting their guys ready to play, and all the situations that come up in a first game. I thought our guys handled it. There was not a lot of substitution errors, really none off of it. I think we had 3 penalties, so we played clean, and that's always the concern. You don't want to beat yourself, any game, but especially the first game. I think it's important that guys, as they get into the flow, it's the first time of kind of football conditioning, all the transitions that happen, between third and fourth down and special teams and those things. And also, just being able to handle the breaks in the action too as well, whether that's the other side of the ball that's out on the field, or if you're getting some of those media and TV breaks too as well, being able to keep your edge and be able to stay focused through all those down moments too as well. So I was pleased with how our guys handled the evening.
Certainly, and it made for an absolutely, electric game for all the viewers as well. And, when you look at it here, this was a team that wasn't really given a chance outside, the current area that we're in, the guys who've seen it and watched the progression of this program. And I'm not sure if you remember us talking at all at camp, but I did mention that I've never been to a fall camp where every single player was going 100% on every single rep. They seemed ready for that challenge on Saturday, even down to that special teams fumble in the second quarter. So, like you said during that press conference, Coach, there's really no such thing as a moral win, especially when it doesn't reflect on the record. But at the basis, what did you see from your guys in week one after all that preparation?
I thought our guys did a good job, first of all, getting off to a fast start. That's something I think anytime you're on the road, and football in general, but especially on the road, is getting off to a fast start is something that's really important. We were able to hold Kansas State to a field goal on their second drive. I think we went 3 and out, and then on the third drive, I think they got an explosive play on a short yardage 4th and 1. That was a miscommunication for us, and they did a good job of picking off one of our safeties. He lined up, we thought, too close to the line of scrimmage, and got caught up in some of the crossing routes and stuff like that. But then our guys bowed up and did a good job in the red zone to force a field goal, and then our offense got on track. A few reverses and some explosive plays to get down to the 1 yard line, and then to be able to score, and really went back and forth. I thought, in a competitive first half, being able to stay with them, and defensively, I think, just making them earn it. I think the biggest disappointment in the first half for us defensively was we had an opportunity to be able to take away the football, and just, dropped probably 4 interceptions. One of them was really unfortunate that we had a chance to be able to turn the ball over to take it away, and then it bounced off of our guy's chest and into the wide receiver's hands in the end zone. So especially not be able to change possession there, but to give up points on top of it was really a tough deal for us to be able to overcome. But going into halftime up, I think it was 21-17. Like I said, I think that was something that was important that we talked about. And then really winning the first part of the middle 8, those last 4 minutes going into halftime, to be able to go down the field and score there and take the lead. The momentum was definitely on our sideline, but thought the third quarter was obviously, our worst quarter of the night. We weren't able to move it offensively there. Our first 3 drives, they did a good job of getting us behind the chains on first down, and then defensively we were just on the field too long and started playing, a lot more of the guys on defense there just because of how much we were on the field, and that's something that we need to continue to improve, and it's an emphasis this week is roster protection and being able to build some depth. I think is really important for us. But the thing I was proud of with our guys is, hey, we got down 10. They got the ball back around midfield, and, we needed to have a defensive stop there if we were going to stay in that football game. And our guys bowed up and did a great job. We got a 3-and-out and got off the field. And then after that, really for the next, the rest of the entire game until the last, minute and a half, I felt like really took control of that football game and scored 14 points and did a lot of really good things on the offensive side of the ball, and then defensively got the ball right back to our offense too as well. So I think that was the biggest thing. There was some resiliency, some belief that, hey, we got down, but we really dug in, in a crucial part of the game and did some things I think that you need to do in order to win football games. Obviously the third quarter, you got to play 4 quarters, and we didn't play well enough in the third quarter, but we bounced back and played well in the fourth.
Definitely, and you mentioned that down 10 at the end of the third. Didn't doubt yourselves. Malachi said it in his post-game presser. You were right on those sidelines, boosting those guys up, even in those type of lows. For an FCS team, when you're down 10 in the third, a lot of them just kind of fall over, flip over, and wave the white flag. But from the beginning of that game, running out of the tunnel, it seemed like your guys were already in it, no matter how much they could go up or down by. What was the message to the guys in that third quarter when you were walking over to that sideline, pumping them up and trying to get them back in the game?
Yeah, we knew we could play better football. We could play cleaner football. There was some communication errors. Kansas State had started to move the ball a little bit. And like I said, they had some longer drives going on. So we had started to mix and match some different combinations on defense there. So I think the biggest thing was just making sure that guys settled down, come to the sidelines. Let's make some corrections. Let's understand, hey, this is, how they're trying to attack us now coming out of halftime. And it wasn't like it was, a lot of adjustments and things like that. It was just some of the tempos and stuff, caught us off guard. And I think, just being able to get the call to all 11 guys was a little bit of a chore there and really caused us a few yards there in the third quarter. So I just think it was more than anything else, just, hey, own it. We made some mistakes. They're off of it. We got to flush it, and now we got to move on and get to the next possession. And I think once our guys, the good thing about it was the look in their eye and just, the communication on the sidelines. There was, really good, coach to player communication as far as what we wanted and the adjustments and some of the mistakes that we made and making sure that we corrected those. And then I thought there was really good, player to coach communication too as well, as far as like, hey, guys owning some things, hey, I got to do a better job here. I didn't get this communicated, or I told them something that, was not the right communication in that situation. So it was really good. And then I think we got some things corrected. And then, like I said, started to get back to playing on our toes and playing downhill and playing complementary football. Like our offense was doing a good job of moving the football, and defensively, when that's the case, man, you want to try to get it back to them as fast and as many times as you can, and we were able to do that all the way up until the 2-minute mark.
Yeah, and you mentioned the player to coach communication, the coach to player communication. I mean, that doesn't happen with every program here in the first year. I mean, that's got to make it at least a little easier for you to maintain that and have faith in your guys to get the job done, right?
Yeah, I think obviously the guys are the guys that are out there playing, so you got to do a good job, I think, of listening to the players and making sure that they're comfortable in the calls that you're calling out there, and they're seeing the same game that you're seeing through your lens as you're calling it. And I think that's the one thing that we've taken a jump here probably in the last 2 weeks is really getting into the details and starting to polish some of the calls on both sides of the ball. I think that was a huge reason for Jerry to be named the starter, and then for him to be able to play well, is I think he's really, he's gotten so many reps now in the concepts that we're doing that he understands not just, what we're doing out there, but why we're doing it. And I think that's really a huge, step in a player's learning progression. I think, you really start a lot of times just worrying about what you need to do every single play. But once you get confident enough to know what you're doing, now you can start to dive into what the people around you are supposed to be doing on every play. And then ultimately it's, hey, I know everything about this play. Now I can start to worry about how is the offense or the defense trying to attack, what we're doing. I think that was the one thing that we've started to get to here a little bit more is just, a deeper dive, way better in questions that we're getting from the players and really trying to figure out, like I said, the details of every call that we have.
Yeah. And you mentioned Kaminsky, just being the guy he is, being so poised, nearly 250 yards through the air and a touchdown to go along with that in his first start as QB. So, Coach, what did you really see in camp that gave you the confidence that Kaminsky could perform in these big games, but maybe even more importantly, just stay composed and stay poised when things starting to tighten up?
Yeah, I mean, we made camp really hard. I think that was one thing that we really talked about with our guys. Like, we want to up our expectation of what we think hard is. It was really physical. We went live a number of times, had, 2 really long scrimmages and did some other live situational work too as well. And I think at that position, there was a ton of competition, between Jerry, between Javance, and between Simon. I mean, each day those guys were taking turns, leading our offense and playing well and doing those things that I think you need to do in order to be a starting quarterback in this league. But I think ultimately, Jerry, like I said, the consistency factor, and then, I thought we threw it and caught it pretty well. We had a few drops yet on Saturday night, but I thought our receivers really competed, on the edges. We were able to get some separation. Jerry was able to throw some guys open, and there was a real good rhythm, I think, in our offense, not just running the football, but, throwing the football too as well. And I thought Jerry really, drove a few balls, down the field, which was big for us. That's something we want to continue to do, is be able to change field position through the air and get some of those chunk plays, those explosive plays. I think are important. We talk about those a lot, in our building every single day. And then he just, there was a 4th and 6 play late in the game that ultimately went down and scored and took the lead. Was a really good throw by him, like just, getting his lower body and getting his back foot into a throw and really driving it down the football field. And one right before halftime too as well to Caden Dennis, where their corner tried to jump it, and that was a dime. Like, he put it right where it needed to be. So he was locked in. I think the other thing I really like about Jerry is he's a competitive kid. Like, he's all about it all the time. He's real positive with guys. And he just, I just think, he brings another element of competitiveness. And when the guys see, how hard he's playing and how hard he's straining out there, it rubs off, onto the other 10 guys that are on the field. I've always thought that. I know we have some veteran guys out there, especially in the O-line, but our offense is going to take on the personality of our quarterback. That's just, the way football is, the way offensive football is made.
Yeah, and, one of my favorite things about this game is I'm not much of a box score guy, but when you look back at things, no guy jumps off the box score, yet you still took the 17th ranked team in the nation to a 3-point game. 11 guys caught a pass, 6 of them got a carry. So, I mean, just what kind of confidence does that give you as a coach, knowing that you don't need a single guy to play a great game against a great opponent?
For sure. I think there's a lot of guys on our team that have proven that they can contribute, a lot of different positions like you're talking about. We threw to our backs. We had a number of backs that caught passes. We had, I think, 3 or 4 tight ends that caught passes. And then, I think our top 5 receivers that played on Saturday night all caught passes too as well. So I think it's a testament to Jerry too as well, to be able to go through his progressions, to go through them with some urgency, to be able to get to 1 to 2 to 3 and get the ball where it needed to go. I thought was really important. I think it shows our guys that, hey man, I got to do my job every single play because the ball might be coming to me. He's a good enough player. All of our quarterbacks are, to be able to go through their progressions and if you're open or the coverage dictates that he can be able to throw you open, then you're going to get the football. So I thought that was really good. Like we moved the balls, or we moved the ball in a lot of different ways. On Saturday night, and we moved it with a lot of different players too as well. Like we spread the football around, and that's always going to make you harder to defend when you can have multiple guys out there that are making plays.
For sure. And as a defensive guy yourself, we talked at camp about the talent you have, just instilling that mindset to keep pounding every single play and of course just finish the game. So even when a big play was given up that Saturday, it looked like the guys were just right back on the line and not really demoralized by it. What'd you see from your defense coach, and does that reflect on what you were trying to teach these guys throughout camp?
Yeah, I think the one thing defensively that a lot of times shows up week one is just tackling, especially against guys like Kansas State. I mean, they had some guys, their running backs are really good players. Their receiver number one is a really good player, and their other receivers are good players too as well. I thought we tackled pretty well overall. Just watching guys in one-on-one situations. We say one shot, one kill. Like, we were able to win some of those matchups, which is huge for us. To be able to get off the field a few times on third down were guys making plays, in those situations and getting guys on the ground and making it, 4th and 3 and 4th and 2 instead of missing tackles. And then, now you're on the field longer, and those become first down. So that was one thing to start out. I did think, in coverage at times, our guys did a good job of being able to, to play top down and play outside in and get our hands on a lot of footballs. Now we got to be able to catch the ones that they throw to us, and really make those things hurt because, besides, winning and losing is obviously that's the most important, but winning the takeaway battle every single Saturday is something that's really important for us too as well. And then, we didn't give up any explosive runs to running backs, so that's a positive. Now the negative is we gave 4 explosive runs up to the quarterback, and some of those are he's a good player and he outran some of our guys, on the edges, so he made some plays there. So that's something that we're going to have to address here moving forward, is just making sure against athletic quarterbacks we got the right guys on the field, and have some calls there too as well, where we can try to flush him to an area where we have some people that can be able to run him down too as well. But the effort and the desire, Duke, to go out there and play well was there, I thought, all night. Now we just got to be able to play cleaner, and I think that comes with more game reps off of it. We just got to continue to learn and be able to be put into those positions on Saturday, and I think that'll help our guys, because we have a number of guys that that haven't played a lot of football at this level up to this point. So for them to be able to go out there and prove that hey, I can play winning football. I haven't done it yet in my career, but this was my first opportunity to do it, and I've shown I can do some things. Now we want to keep resetting the standard every single Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I took away from your post-game presser is, you didn't see this as a breakout moment for you guys. A lot of FCS coaches, teams around the country would consider this kind of that breakout moment for their program, coming that close to the win. But I just need to know, what does a breakout moment look like for you and this team?
Yeah, I think finishing, right? Like, that was the thing that was the most disappointing, was to be able to, do things that were really difficult for a long period of time, and then to put yourself in a position now where, we were in the driver's seat, to stop them on 4th down with 13 left to go in the game, and to get our offense back on the field. Now it was a chance for us to be able to finish the deal and finish strong. And offensively, we weren't able to get a first down, and then to punt it, and then to give up the 2-minute drive. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, to us, a breakthrough moment is going to be, hey, man, going and winning a big game like that on the road. I do think our guys, have some confidence in how they played, but yet at the end of the day, man, this is about us going out there and being able to end with a positive result and to win a football game. And like I said, you got to play 4 quarters. We didn't play the 3rd quarter well enough, in order for us to be able to go and do that and beat a good team, in their house. And then ultimately at the end of the game, man, we got to be able to, whether that's a pass rusher that can go win a one-on-one and get a sack in those situations. I mean, you get a sack in a 2-minute situation, that's like gold. All those receivers are down the field running routes, and now they got to burn timeouts or burn clock, and you become in the advantage position. So I think there's definitely some things yet that we know we have to work on in our roster and find some roles for some certain guys that that can help us win in those different types of situations when you're at the end of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple more questions for you, Coach. I noticed a lot of motion misdirection on offense there as well. Is that something to expect from this team on this season? Because it seemed to be pretty effective keeping Kansas State on their heels even when it didn't really pan out.
For sure. I think that's something that, plays are expensive, shifts, motion, trades, those are inexpensive, so I think it's definitely something that's in our DNA. It's something that I want us to continue to be able to progress with, and really do a good job of making sure that, we use all of our guys in different ways, whether that's, lining them up in different spots, whether that's, shifting them to a different formation. I mean, those are the things I think that we can continue to do a very good job of, to be able to gain an advantage, right? Like a lot of times it's leverage, which is a great word in football, right? To be able to gain leverage on a defense. And I thought our guys, like I said, did a good job of a lot of those things are hard to do when you can't hear, in a hostile environment. I thought our guys, did a really good job of being able to really open up the entire package and do what we want to do and be able to communicate in a louder environment. So it was good to see, and definitely something that we will continue to build on here, as we go through the season.
And then we got Portland State coming up here for the home opener, Coach. How do you take what you learned from this past week and, make sure these guys are ready for this upcoming home opener and not get hung over on this loss?
Our motto for the week is just to respond, right? And I think that's something that's really important for our guys. We talk about, hey, having a 1-0 response. Like taking each day, we just got off the practice field here a little bit ago, but taking each day and treating it like, hey, practice today and practice tomorrow and practice throughout this week. Let's treat all those moments like it's the final 2 minutes at Manhattan, Kansas. Like, can you do that? If you can do that and practice, with that type of focus and that type of effort and that type of intent, that's how we're going to get better. And like I told you before, we need to do a better job of building some depth, throughout our entire football team. That's offense and defense and special teams too as well. So definitely pouring into some guys here to make them understand that, hey, there's going to come a point in the season where we're going to need you to go out there and perform and play at a high level and play, a significant role. So that's been a huge point of emphasis for us early on this week. And then, like I said, it's the response now here moving forward. We talk a lot about, this entire year being us versus us. Like, it's not so much that we're worried about, what's in other people's locker rooms. We want to continue to win our 24-hour segments every single day and really focus on the people that are in our locker room and making them the very best, versions of themselves. So the response, I think, is huge. Like I said, we're doubling down on the 1-0, winning a day, going 1-0 in a meeting, in a practice, in a class, whatever that is, and really treating it, like I said, like it's the end of the game, like that type of just mindset that we got to have every single day in order for us to be able to improve and for us to be able to go earn a win here this weekend.
Sure, for sure. Love that mindset. And, with this Portland State home opener, you laced them up. You wore the colors yourself at one time, Coach. What are you excited about with this team that you can't wait to show the UND faithful on Saturday, especially knowing you donned the same colors, you were in those same trenches?
I'm just excited for our guys. They put a ton of work in here, like real work. I think they're starting to build some real confidence, through that type of real work that they put in every single day. So just excited for them to be able to be in that atmosphere. It should be, a great crowd for us. The home opener is always, a lot of excitement, and then especially with, with how we played a week ago, I think that's added to the vibe around here too as well. So I'm just excited for our guys. They've earned, everything that they've gotten up to this point. Now we got to continue to have a starving mindset and continue to improve and get better too as well. So I think the biggest thing for us is to make sure that, hey, our guys are prepared. They come in here with the right mindset. They come in here with, feeling really, really confident and having some belief in their preparation and in the work that they've done up to this point. And then they got another test, right? Saturday night at 6 o'clock. Like, we're going to try to give them as many answers to the test as we can, but there's always going to be 5 or 6 out there that you got to go solve on your own. And excited to see those guys go out there and improve here in the Alaire Center in the Potato Bowl on Saturday night.
Hey, we're excited to see it, Coach. We're excited to see it. Winning 1-0 every single day. Thank you very much for joining us here today, Coach. UND's head coach, Eric Schmidt, joining us. Thank you, Coach Schmidt.
You got it. Thanks, Duke. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course, of course. All right, that'll wrap up our Valley News Now Sports Overtime, our first edition here. Thank you very much for joining us.